As schools, churches, community centers, and town halls open their doors tomorrow morning for voters, fewer people will be showing up to the polling centers. WENY's Samantha Potter looks into one county on why voter turnout continues to decline and where your vote counts the most. Samantha?
Renata, some people were still fighting for the right to vote as recently as the 1960s. And now, just 50 years later, many Americans take that right for granted and don't exercise their right to vote. And each year, that number of voters heading to the polls continues to decrease. But why?
If we look at the percentage of voter turnout just over the last 30 years, it's blatantly obvious to notice fewer people heading to the polls. Take Chemung County. During the 1984 presidential election, 93% of registered voters cast a vote, while during the 2012 election, only 70% showed up to the polls.
If you stack us up against other countries, we are pretty pitiful. And the farther down our federal ladder you go, the more pitiful we are.
And like Elmira College political science professor Jim Twombly said, if you look at the local elections, the number of voters is even lower. In the 80s, we see around a 50% turnout, whereas in the 2009-2011 local elections, we're looking at numbers around 16%. Take the recent mayoral Democratic primary elections in the city of Elmira. There are 5,060 registered Democratic voters, yet only 336 people cast their ballot, and it was just 14 votes that separated the winner from the loser. So the question rises, why do more people vote for the President of the United States than their mayor or school board president?
Because it's on the grand stage, it's on CNN, Fox News, things like that, that people just tend to think it's more important.
So while the President of the United States has more power, both Twombly and Republican Commissioner for the Chemung County Board of Elections, Robert Siglin, both agree it's the local elected leaders that affect your day-to-day and your wallet the most.
That a school board election has the greatest impact on your tax bill. The president doesn't influence your tax bill as much as the president of your local school board. Yet we don't turn out in the election that impacts our wallet the most, we turn out in the election that impacts our wallet the least.
Dr. Twombly says, look at it this way. Think about your vote's worth in a presidential election versus a school board election. Let's arbitrarily say there are 100 million voters who turn out to vote. Your vote is 1 over 100 million. Whereas a school board, it's a much smaller community, so let's say there are 10,000 voters. Your vote is 1 over 10,000.
So logically, the vote that's worth more is the school board election vote because you contribute a much greater proportion of the overall vote than you do in a presidential election.
Siglin and Dr. Twombly add the information the media covers on elections plays a large role. Take the presidential election. The 2016 race for the White House is more than a year away, yet you can't turn on cable news networks without hearing about the dozen Republican or Democratic nominees. In regards to how to get a bigger buzz for local elections, Dr. Twombly says when there's an issue that excites the public, they're more likely to come out and vote.
There are two things that get voters really hot: messing with their property and messing with their kids.
For example, when the conversation of possibly making changes to the Village of Horseheads Police Department came up right around the mayoral primary, the campaign became heated. As a result, out of 1,900 registered voters, nearly 850 showed up to the polls. So there's not always going to be controversial or heated debates during local elections, but how do we as a community get people to the voting booth?
We need to do a better job of educating the citizenry about the importance of the right to vote, the duty to vote. We need to educate them more about how our government works so that they can more easily understand the issues that come before them.
Tomorrow morning on Good Morning Twin Tiers, both City of Elmira mayoral candidates Sue Skidmore and Dan Mandel will be answering questions regarding their plan for the future of Elmira. And on our website, WENY.com, I've put a full list of candidates running in Chemung County, as well as links to polling places. Voting goes from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. Reporting in the studio, Samantha Potter, WENY News.